Hello and welcome again. Now, government says it has tabled a proposal on the private sector participation in the electricity company of Ghana, which will see Ghanaians take up majority stake in the deal. Known as the Power Compact, the agreement is expected to inject more efficiency into electricity distribution in Ghana's power sector. The process, however, appears to have stalled in the last few months since the Akufo-Addo-led administration took office, with key officials insisting on a renegotiation of the deal. Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia told journalists in Washington, D.C., he's been trying to renegotiate the compact with Millennium Challenge Corporation officials in the U.S. for more favorable terms.
When we got here, we have been trying to renegotiate the concession agreement. As you know, the NDC government had signed on to a compact as far as concession in ECG was concerned. So we've been talking to the Millennium Challenge Corporation on that matter. And we've renegotiated the agreement in a sense to make sure that this concession agreement, number one, has majority Ghanaian ownership of the concession. We've insisted on that. It has to be majority Ghanaian owned. And secondly, we have to have an assurance that there will be no layoffs at ECG as a result. And also it will be managed by Ghanaians. And so we have got those three elements that we have insisted on, and we have gotten an understanding on these three elements. And I think it's good news for Ghana, and it's good news for all the players in the energy sector.
Dr. Bawumia says government also intends to issue a bond that will be used to pay off the energy sector debts and free the balance sheets of the utility companies involved.
Right now, ESLA, the energy sector levy, is dealing with all the liabilities of every, one of these SOEs. But what we would do is have one bond which will take off all those liabilities, and government will service those bonds with the ESLA revenue. So it's a much neater situation and allows the space for our energy companies, the VRAs and so on, to have much stronger balance sheets to grow again and to invest again and to attract investment again. In fact, in the area of energy, we also talked to the Millennium Challenge Corporation.
Well, still on the Vice President, the NDC minority in Parliament has hit back at Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia for describing them as ignorant in their criticism of government's recent multi-billion-dollar bond issue. Dr. Bawumia, who was speaking with journalists in Washington, D.C., also described as sad the minority's recent news conference on the bond, as it suggested they have never understood the economy. Minority spokesperson on finance, Cassiel Atoforson, however, says the Vice President's comments are unfortunate and unbecoming of his office, and that there are a lot more questions left unanswered. Mapito Sabidi has more.
Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia did not mince words when he described as ignorant the minority's claims that the recent bond issue was problematic. The minority on Tuesday demanded an investigation into how investment firm Franklin Templeton acquired 95% of government's $2.25 billion bond, which has been touted as the biggest offer in the nation's history. In an interview with Joy News at the IMF spring meetings in Washington, D.C., Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia described the minority's claims as worrying.
I think it shows a lack of understanding. The minority have never understood this economy, and it is just amazing that people on that side who were actually in charge of managing the economy will be making such statements. It shows ignorance. It really shows ignorance, and I am so sad when I hear that from people who should know better. And so they need to understand. Maybe they should read a little. They need to understand what took place. We issued a CD bond, and there's no secrecy to the matter. And it was very well invested in. The holders have invested many times in Ghana. The bonds that were in place when SECTEC issued them, they bought them. 24% interest rate. This time is 19%. So we are doing even much better.
Minority in Parliament is fighting back. Former Deputy Finance Minister Kasil Atufosin says the vice president is missing the point.
We've engaged them with 24% in the past. And what I'm trying to say is that 24% in the past, the tenor wasn't 7 years. The tenor indeed wasn't 15 years. So you cannot compare a 2-year bond at 24% or 3-year bond at 24% to 19.75% tenor bond. He's making reference to a 2-year bond at 24%. Yeah. You cannot compare 2-year bond 24% to that of the 15-year bond at 19.75, because you are locking it in for a very long time. And one will expect that under the yield curve principle, clearly, if it's going to be a longer dated bond, you pay lower than a short dated bond. That is the principle.
He also disputed government's claim that the Finance Ministry followed the right processes in the issuance of the bond.
Contrary to what the Ministry of Finance is saying, that one, the issuance calendar, advertised a 5 and a 7-year bond, a 7-year bond and a 15-year bond. It's untrue. You can check the issuance calendar from the ministry, from the Bank of Ghana website. Okay. There's nothing like that. So one, that is not correct. Number two, we, in the minority statement that Honorable Haruna Idrisu has just signed and sent out, we made certain point that the guideline to the bond, was issued around 5:37 p.m. on the 30th of March, at a time that we believe that most domestic investors may have gone to sleep or left their offices. We say this because you will notice that if it is a domestic bond, clearly the description is that you market it to local investors, domestic investors, whereas you open a window for others like foreigners to participate. So your focus is on domestic investors, but you are opening a window for foreigners to participate. If you send the issuance calendar, the guideline around 5:37 p.m., you open the transaction around 9 a.m. and you make an announcement to the public after you have opened it. This is our concern. What we're also saying is that you notice clearly in the emails that they sent out, the Ghanaian investor, ordinary Ghanaian investor, had an announcement around 9:09 after the transaction has been opened. It was quickly done.
Government on Monday, April 3rd, 2017, announced it was successful in the auction of a total of $2.25 billion in 4 bonds. I am Mapito Sibidi, reporting for Joy News.
Now, the Judicial Service Staff Association of Ghana, JUSAG, has given government up to April 26 to pay allowances due members of face and industrial action. The association, their standing allowances, according to the association, date back to October 2016 and has left its membership with unbearable hardship. JUSAG President Alex Nate has been speaking to Joy News. He believes payment before the ultimatum is the only way the unrest can be resolved.
The change of government and whatever, does not affect, state institutions like ours. The parameters are clear, and they are those we are engaging.
But for your council to meet on this issue and go ahead to issue this, it suggests, I must say on face value, that it appears you're not getting the kind of cooperation you are desiring.
Yes, obviously, once something due staff in October has been outstanding until, you should know that there is something wrong. And that is why we have issued this letter, so that management will be aware that we are not enthused about the situation. We are saying that by 26th, if something is not done, we will advise ourselves. Until then, I am unable to clearly indicate which direction the association will go. Issues of this nature are in themselves industrial action. So, but we have various forms. And so until 26th, I am unable to tell which kind of industrial action the association has taken. But from the demeanor of our rank and file and the position of the National Executive Council, they are not happy.
You're watching Joy News Prime. Still to come, Lands and Natural Resources Minister assures media coalition against illegal mining as they wear red to protest the illicit trade that there will be an unrelenting battle against galamsey. You're welcome back. Now, Lands and Natural Resources Minister John Peter Amewu has pledged an unrelenting battle against galamsey until the illicit activity is brought under control. Mr. Amewu made the pledge at a protest in Accra by an anti-galamsey campaigners to force government to clamp down on those engaged in it.
It is a huge challenge. This is not the end. Yes. It is going to be a fight that we will fight until we achieve results. But as a government and as a people, we are not against Ghanaians mining at all. Mining, it's something that is done across all regimes, but it is done in a more sustainable and environmental friendly manner. Anybody out there who wants to conform to this regime of mining, that person is welcome. You mine to conform to the regulatory framework. You mine in a more sustainable and an environmental friendly manner. We will entertain you. But for the recalcitrant ones that go up there, dredging down the water, by destroying our forests, our vegetations, polluting of the environment, they are the people we are going in there for, and we will not allow that. There is going to be a combat and a militant approach after the end of these 21 days, and that is going to follow suit. After we visited the site, it was clear that huge numbers of earth-moving equipment were withdrawn from this site. I have no doubt, and I'm clear in my mind, that the intention of these guys is to return back to those areas. Of course, we are not going to allow that.
The minister assured government will find alternate jobs for those who will be affected by the ban.
For the purpose of livelihood, yes, of course, as government, we want to provide food for people, job for people. But we cannot sacrifice that for the distractions of the environment. And so the reclamation program or process is going to be an alternative livelihood. We have estimated about 1.6% of the Earth's surface being destroyed by galamsey. That is in the region of almost quite close to about 40,000 kilometers squared. If you have to reclaim this area alone, it's huge. And so there's going to be a two model that we're going to apply. We are examining the possibility of youth employment programs to run along with the reclamation program, which is an alternative. We have estimated the reclamation cost per hectare, and this one can also be given out to the same individuals, people's household families that were engaged in this activity to undertake the reclamation for a fee. That can be done, and that will be followed by planting of trees, indigenous species over these areas. We are going ahead to demarcate areas that are very prospective, and those areas will be allocated to these small-scale miners with the intention of monitoring. That also is on call. So we are not against people who want to mine, but if you want to mine, you need to mine to conform with our laws and our regulation and the best practices. That is what we're saying.
Okay, so how far are we going to go with this fight against galamsey?
It's going to go. I mean, in the ministry itself, we're coming up with a 5-year project called the MMIP, which is a multilateral mining integrated project. That is a 5-year project.
Meanwhile, journalists belonging to the Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining Friday wore red clothing to protest the negative impact of illegal mining and to bring pressure to bear on those engaged in the illicit trade to stop it. Coming barely 40 hours after the expiration of the 21-day ultimatum given the galamsey operators to stop, the symbolism, according to the coalition, is to help sustain the campaign. Joy News' Patricia Gasu, meanwhile, found out on her visit to some of the media houses, other initiatives are being adopted to ensure the public remains aware of the need to stop illegal mining.
Stop galamsey. We are killing longer matters. You see, the future with judges actually.
I'm from the Achim area, and I have two big rivers around, Pra and Brim. As I knew it when I was growing up, everything has changed. The last time I got to cross Pra, I only saw mud, not river. And I think that we should rally to stop the menace. I mean, no matter the ounces of gold people get from the river, it cannot replace lives.
I have in front of me a signature campaign for hashtag Stop Galamsey movement as a Ghana Media Project 2017. So Stop Galamsey, ending water and environmental crisis. Save Ghana. So what I'm going to do now is to sign. And my name is Patricia Gasu for Accra.
Thank you.
And then I sign. Okay, so I have also joined the campaign, hashtag No to Galamsey.
This we anticipate will happen in some years ahead, not today in Ghana. If we are facing the water crisis today, then when the whole world is supposed to face a crisis, where would we be? I'm happy you signed this campaign for us.
Rap, stop galamsey. We are killing galamsey, so stop galamsey now.
I'm currently at City FM with Bernard Avle and
Kojo.
Okay, I just want to know how they're contributing to this Stop Galamsey Now.
Stop Galamsey Now. Charlie, it's been massive. We're just doing tweets and social media stuff on Stop Galamsey. I'm wearing my City FM, but the hashtag is Stop Galamsey Now.
And also engaging those in policy. We are engaging legislators, parliament, we are engaging the government, because as much as we want to get the whole Ghana involved, we need to get the key actors also involved so that we get some action.
How far are we going with this campaign?
You know, the good thing is, you can enter a fight knowing when it ends. That's normal. But if you enter a fight not knowing
when it's going to end,
because there are people who say they are waiting for the minister to stop the tour, then they'll come back to do the galamsey. We have airtime and we're going to push. And the great thing is that all the media is involved. It's not just a CTFM thing. Joy, Graphic, Times, Occupy Ghana. So if somebody gets tired, somebody else is going to continue. And I really think that by the end of the year 2017, we would see some massive changes, because the way the media is concerted and talking about this, it will take a really, really brave person to continue doing galamsey, looking at how influential and powerful the media is. So for me, I think it's a fight we have to win, and we'll not stop until we win.
Okay. So, as he says, we are not stopping until we win. The campaign still continues. Is the hashtag
Stop Galamsey now!
Rap, stop galamsey. We are killing galamsey. So stop.
Well, it appears some defiant illegal miners in the Ashanti region town of Akrokeri are insisting government rescinds its decision to ban their operations. Although some of them admit that they are causing some destruction, especially to farmlands, they maintain there are no alternatives for them to make a living. They spoke with Joy News when the news team visited the area barely 24 hours after government's ultimatum to halt illegal mining expired. Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin reports.
Mining activities were going on earnestly at the time we arrived at one of the sites at Akrokeri, though no excavators are on the site. It is unclear if they are not used here at all or they have just been taken away to meet government's deadline. However, the chamfine, a Chinese crushing and milling technology, is in use. The miners were apprehensive of our cameras. Some of them resisted our attempts to take shots, besides refusing to speak with us. Women had queued up carrying sand from the pit dug by the miners. For them, walking to and from the pit daily with an average of 12 Ghana cedis provides a lifeline irrespective of the damage to the environment.
This place looks very busy every day because residents say this is the only way they can survive. You can see women and men struggling for a living inside the pit.
Has been here for days trying to raise money for other business. She says she needs just about 400 Ghana cedis to start a business and find solace in Galamsey.
I've got no money to start a business. That is why I am here to gather money and start my business.
Found miners at work at sites like Pomposo, Akaboriso, and Brahabepome. It was, however, clear government's crackdown appears to have taken the steam of many of them.
We are not educated, so this is the only job we have. We do not have any other job. If the president wants us to rob, then we'll stop the galamsey. We don't destroy water bodies or use excavators here. We are over 5,000 workers.
Found miners at work at sites like Pomposo, Akaboriso, and Brahabepome. It was, however, clear government's crackdown appears to have taken the steam of many of them. The excavators were nowhere to be found. Mohad Adowini and Awentonia are trying to scrap through the huge piles of earth, potentially for the precious metal.
We
are trying to dig for gold and nothing else. We can decide to leave work today or tomorrow.
Awentonia says he may just have to get ready to return to his hometown, Bolgatanga, in the Upper East region.
If to stop Galamsey, then we have no other alternative than to quit and work elsewhere.
Like their colleagues at Akrokeri, many of them want government to review its decision.
We don't destroy water bodies here. We are hungry, and that's the only job available. We plead with the government to assist.
Some of them say they may just have to consider other means of livelihood. From all indications, the fight against Galamsey may not be as easy as perhaps majority of Ghanaians would wish. Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin reporting.
You're still watching Joy News Prime. Still ahead, Volta Region House of Chiefs suspends indefinitely paramount chiefs of Nkonya-Alavanyo for their inability to maintain peace between the two traditional areas. We have details after business. You're welcome back. Now, President Akufo-Addo says the time has come for the country to break away from what he described as aid-dependent and charity-driven economic outlook. The country, according to the president, should be dissatisfied with the remaining poor and rather initiate programs that will give clear-cut exit strategies in order to give financial independence to the country. The president said this when he delivered the keynote address at the Rotary Club's International District Training Assembly and Conference at the International Conference Center here in Accra.
I want us in Ghana to break out from our aid-dependent and charity-driven economic outlook. I want programs that will be dynamic in content and help us to think big and be dissatisfied with remaining poor. Programs that help the poor and vulnerable are important and vulnerable and admirable, But I do not want us to continue to be unduly reliant on long-term aid projects. I want all such projects to have clear-cut exit strategies. It is not enough to get help to be able to feed your family. The help must be so structured as to enable you to strike out and be able to lead an independent life. I remember when the LEAP program was envisaged and introduced under President Kufuor, we were clear in our minds that whereas we wanted it to cover all those who would qualify under the definition of the program, It was meant to be a hand up, not a handout. If someone has to go on the LEAP program, it should not be for the rest of that person's life. There should be a definite time limit to being a LEAP beneficiary, and the beneficiary should be able to stand on his or her own after the stated period.
Now, the founder of the All People's Congress, Hassan Ayaraga, says the NPP government has not implemented to the core its 103 achievements as spelled out by Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. Mr. Ayaraga explained that it would have made a lot more impact if the government monitors to ensure that those intended to benefit actually feel the relief. Mr. Ayaraga was speaking Friday morning on the Super Morning Show with host Kojo Yangson.
The 103 achievement, I think it was set here by the Vice President, and some of them are part of what the things that we were talking about. They've actually picked it, but they did not implement it the way we want them to do. For instance, the reduction in taxes, the abolishment of levies, and many other things. They've done that so far, but they have refused to implement the next stage of it, which we did not give them.
Right.
The next stage, you see, you can reduce taxes on so many things, but whether it reflects to the consumer is another problem. What has happened is that there have been reduction in prices in taxes so far by the MPP government, which I must applaud them for doing that. But have they gone to check to see whether those people who are enjoying the tax incentives are actually reducing the cost of goods and services for the consumer to benefit?
And you don't think people are benefiting from these taxes?
Go to, for instance, Abosunkai. There have been reduction in taxes on spare parts. Have you been to the Abosunkai lately to find out whether a particular item that you were buying it previously for 10 cedis is still 10? It's gone up. What have we done? We have no price control systems that will actually make sure that people follow due processes, that when you put a particular price for a commodity, we have to have an institution that has to set pricing for all the things that we are doing in this country. For instance, the airline taxes that has been taken off.
Right.
We used to buy tickets, airfare tickets, let's say in the previous government. To Tamale was 3 million, 2.7 million, 2.8 million. Today, even with a reduction in their taxes and their levies, we're still paying very high price for it. Even when you say the city has gained value, yet we pay more than we're paying. So what is the government doing to make sure that they regulate the prices of the goods and services, that they have abolished taxes on it? It's very important. They should look at that part of it so that Ghanaians can enjoy those tax burden and say, yes, of course, yes, the government of the NPP has reduced tax and it is coming. We are enjoying it because we can feel it. But taxes have been reduced, nothing has been done.
On the political atmosphere, Mr. Ayaraga says the NDC in opposition has been softer on the NPP government. He explains that the 2012 election petition by the NPP made it impossible for the then government to achieve its goals in the first 100 days. The APC founder suggests, therefore, that the NDC be applauded, though, in opposition for helping the government of the NPP to achieve a lot.
I think that they've been quiet for now. I think they have helped the NPP greatly than the NPP did to them when they're in opposition. In terms of, if you look at the size of the government, today we have 110 ministers. I will come to that. I want to tell you why they are doing. The president, the former president, 100 days was a bit difficult compared to the 100 days of President Nana Addo, because in the previous government, the NPP refused to participate in many other things that could help the former government to put in ministers within the first 100 days.
You're talking about the election petition, right?
The election petition, actually they came in, they had so many things, so it was very difficult for them, as at that time, to put in place their ministers before the 100 days. Now, if you look at today, the opposition MPP, NDC, has actually supported the MPP severally in so many ways, helping them to vet ministers, helping them to make sure that they are able to achieve that portfolio within the first 100 days. So we should applaud them. Even though they're in opposition, they're supporting the previous government. They've laid foundation for the current government to build on.
Right.
And if they had been a very stiff opposition like the MPP did in 2012, I don't think the president will sit today and say he's achieved one of his targets, which is putting in place 110 ministers in government.
We want to challenge the government to deliver the country from economic hardship. That's the charge from the chairman of the Church of Pentecost Worldwide to the Akufo-Addo-led government. Apostle Professor Opoku-Nyina said this at the launch of the Political Youth Chamber of the Church of Pentecost in Accra. Michaela Anderson was there for Joy News.
We are currently at the Youth Political Chamber, a program spearheaded by the Church of Pentecost Youth Ministry. And basically, the youth is being empowered to take up leadership positions in government, and very prominent personalities have been addressing the youth. Among them is the former rector of GIMPA, Professor Stephen Adair, and he's joining us for a little chat. Thank you very much, Prof.
Yes, thank you also for this opportunity. Well, first of all, I'm a youth.
That's great, yeah.
I'm only 69 young.
You're a big youth.
Yes. And probably, I think that now that I've been a professor of leadership and taught leadership, if I were probably to choose another career, it would have been in political leadership, because of the impact of politicians on society, for better, for worse. How they model their ways, their power over policy, their personal modeling, their control of the resources of the country, which is about a quarter of our national gross domestic product, is actually spent by the government of the day, any government of it. And all of these make them so important. And I think that Christians must be there. And of course, there are some there, but more of them should be there. The Bible says we are salt of the earth and the light of the world. A light. Many Christians don't want to go to politics because they say it is dirty, there's corruption, there are other things. But my view is this: where the darkness is darkest, there the little light you may have will bright most. And we must be there for the sake of our country. And I support the youth of the Church of Pentecost now thinking that political career is not for only the people of the world, but for Christians. And I will share them with them. However, it's a slippery ground. You must be strong in your values, and your morals must be rooted in Christ.
Apostle Professor Opoku-Nyina, the chairman of the Church of Pentecost Worldwide, has also been given his assessment of Nana Addo's 100 days in office, and he believes the government is capable of delivering Ghana from economic slavery.
The 100 days report has actually shown that the government has begun well, being able to pay some debts, and that is a sign that there are good days ahead. And therefore, we will continue to challenge the government that they should continue to meet the needs of the people, serve the people, and help Ghana come out of economic hardship and challenges. And we believe that we can make it, and therefore they can make it. So we are looking forward to them. With a sign that we have seen, we believe that they should be able to do it. We are looking forward to success and prosperous Ghana. We are trusting that the one district, one factory will materialize. At least if you are able to get 30%, I will even thank God for that.
George Washington once said, "It is impossible to govern the world without God and the Bible." I leave you to wrap your head around this. Michaela Anderson for Joy News.
Now, the Accra Psychiatric Hospital is in dire need of some laboratory equipment that will help the facility run effectively. The hospital's biochemistry analyzer has broken down since last year, as a result of which patients have to be transported to other hospitals for their lab tests to be conducted. A medical lab scientist at the hospital, George Arthur, has been speaking with Joy News' Maxwell Agwagba.
So sometimes it's a pity when you have to refer patients out. You know,
patients that sometimes they come, they have no money to afford some of these tests and all that. So it's really been a challenge. An analyzer for our blood count, what we call the hematology analyzer. You need a biochemistry analyzer. That's what we use for the liver, the kidney, the cholesterol, and then checking of diabetes and all that. We also need one for therapeutic drug monitoring, as I indicated some time ago. That as patients are being given drugs, we need to monitor the dosaging, the levels, to see how effective the treatment has been. And also, people who abuse drugs, when they come in, the diagnostic process, you also will need that analyzer. So that analyzer can do a whole lot. The place is virtually empty. So I think when you're able to get these machines, you can get the place furnished and fully operational. We used to have, it's called the biochemistry analyzer.
Biochemistry analyzer.
This machine, as it's been covered, has broken down for about a year now, and it's beyond repairs. So we are unable, as it is now, to run liver function tests, to run the kidney test, to run the cholesterol, to run the diabetes checks, which they are all vital for our patients. So I think a complete replacement will do.
Now, the Volta Regional House of Chiefs has suspended indefinitely the paramount chiefs and queen mothers of Nkonya and Alavanyo for their inability to maintain peace between the two traditional areas. This follows renewed troubles, which left 2 people dead and others in critical condition at Nkonya. Volta Regional Minister Dr. Archibald Lecha has assured police are working to arrest persons responsible for the shooting dead of 2 people in Nkonya on Wednesday night. 2 others were also injured in the attacks, which have been linked to the long-standing conflict between residents of Nkonya and Alavanyo. Here's the News Desk report.
President of the Regional House of Chiefs, Nana Soglo Alo IV, told the Ghana News Agency that the Standing Committee of the House decided to sanction the chiefs after a meeting with the regional minister yesterday. He said the suspension was to make the traditional leaders take responsibility for the actions of their subjects. Nana Alo said the 2 chiefs had on several occasions committed themselves to peace agreements mediated by various institutions, but to no avail, and that punitive measures needed to be applied. The 2 traditional areas have been engaged in a 94-year-old land dispute, which has lingered all this while, despite efforts by religious bodies, the National Peace Council, and government to end it.
And we do understand that there are reports of gunshots being heard in the area. Correspondent Ivy Setoji joins us on the line. Ivy, good evening to you. Can you confirm that these gunshots were actually fired?
About 2 hours ago, when I had already left the town, some residents of the town I met earlier when I was there called me to tell me that there were gunshots being heard on top of the mountain, and they were getting scared. Some other students, 2 students from the Nkonya Senior High School also called me and said the same thing. I tried calling the police, but couldn't reach the police on this issue. That was what we were told, that gunshots were heard in Nkonya, and that some other people were trying to get back at the Nkonya people. So that is what is on the ground right now.
Okay, and on our screens we see that pictures of the regional minister visiting the injured. Tell us about that.
Yes, 1 person was injured during the shooting. So the regional minister this evening around 5:36 went to the hospital to pay a visit to the man who is responding to treatment at the Volta Regional Hospital. He assured him of their support to making sure that he gets well soon, and that things will get well in the Nkonya and Alavanyo as well. So indeed, the regional minister and some of his entourage, some of his workers went to the hospital to visit the injured.
All right, many thanks for that update. Ivy Setoji is our correspondent in the Volta region. Now, still on this, the paramount chief of Alavanyo, Togwe Chegye Atakra and the Chindomhene of Nkonya reacted earlier on the polls to the suspension of the chiefs and queen mothers. Listen.
I don't think they are doing the proper thing, because as paramount chiefs of Alavanyo and Nkonya, I can speak for myself what we've been doing in Alavanyo to promote peace. We've been doing so much. I can assure you that all the peace moves to have committees set up were initiated by Alavanyo. The Justice Aqua Commission, which was set up in 1991, we appealed to the then chairman of the PNDC through writing. I mean, the Alavanyos wrote a letter to President Rawlings, and he set up the Justice Aqua Committee.
Okay.
The 1996 Miracle Commission, we appealed to our then DCE, Mr. Populampo, and he set up the Miracle Commission.
Okay.
We had to appeal to Bishop Lodonu and others to set up the justice, to set up the Reverend Dr. Muhammad's mediation committee.
Okay.
So we've been playing our part.
Right.
And we've been doing a lot of education during public fora to our people. Look of things. It has been very difficult for both sides to actually come out with any modality to stop this sporadic killings.
All right.
It has been very difficult. There have been a lot of proposals, yet none has succeeded. There was one which should have taken place, led by the paramount chief of Pando, traditional area. In fact, he just started the proceedings when suddenly he got out of the space.
Now, Minister of State in charge of Tertiary Education, Professor Kwesi Yankah, says government is committed to addressing the funding challenge the free SHS policy will present to tertiary institutions with the likely increase in students seeking admission. Professor Yankah was speaking at the John Ajekum Kufuor Foundation induction ceremony for its 2017 scholars. There's more in this report.
The foundation, since its inception, has supported 14 students from various tertiary institutions across the country. The sponsorship package includes support for payment of fees, connecting them with mentors, as well as opportunities to volunteer in community activities. 20 scholars were selected for this year. Minister of State in charge of tertiary education, Professor Kwesi Yankah, believes the foundation's support fits into government's plan of involving the private sector in education financing.
Efforts of the Kufuor Foundation in mounting this scholars program are in accord with the government's agenda of encouraging public and private partnerships in funding education at the tertiary level. The effort reduces government's burden in financing tertiary education within public universities and allows other stakeholders, particularly philanthropic organizations, to buy into Ghana's developmental agenda through financing tertiary.
The issue of utility charges has been thorny for some time now. While some schools are billing students, others have mounted pressure on government to make the payments. Professor Yankah described the banter as much ado about nothing.
You could pay for utilities without being told that you are paying the utility. You know, it's part of the general fees that are paid. But because universities have not been paying, that there has been an accumulation over the years. If it were paying it were being paid for from month to month, from week to week, it is just part of fees. So to me, it is a human, it's an artificial creation, an artificial problem. We should find ways of clearing the, the debt that has built up, and find other ways of incorporating this in the normal fees that we charge, so that we don't have to separate utility bill. It's not done in other universities I know outside the country, but it's paid for all the same. So it's no news. We have made it news.
Some selected scholars share the expectations with Joy News.
Marrying theory and practicals normally is a daunting challenge for every leader. And in a society where most of our problems are tangible, they are actually problems, they are pressing perennial challenges, I want a situation where I can be able to use the knowledge I'm going to acquire from the Kufuor Scholars Program to be able to implement them in solving problems, because leadership is no leadership if I'm not able to practicalize the theory that I learned. So this is one of the knowledge that I want to really get from the Kufuor Scholars Program.
So at the end of the 3-year program, I actually expect that I would have learned all the leadership skills that I'm supposed to know, because I want to be an international logistics service provider. So I need some kind of mentoring and guidance and the correct networking to guide me and walk me on that path. But with this program, I'm sure at the end of the program, I'm actually going to get the needed things that I need to become an international logistics service provider. So
the foundation's next batch of scholars will be selected next year.
In Solar Education, Sector Minister Dr. Matthew Opoku-Pempe has charged the newly inaugurated Council of the Ghana Education Service to ensure that management of the service brings the best out of staff and students in the various public schools across the country. The minister said this when he inaugurated the 6th Council at the Ghana Education Service on behalf of the President Friday afternoon. He added that the ministry and government are concerned about reports of corrupt practices by some circuit supervisors who take money from teachers before processing documents for their promotions and salaries.
We have received reports that some supervisors have been demanding money from teachers in order to facilitate their postings and promotions being reflected in the IPPD payroll system. This the ministry takes a very serious view of. I charge you and your fellow council members to take this matter up as soon as possible and ensure that the practice is stamped out in order to preserve the integrity of the Ghana Education Service and the government payroll system. There are a number of other issues that I wish to bring to the urgent attention of the Council. We envisage that the registration and licensing of teachers to improve professionalism would be finally established. This will go with improving the quality and standards of the profession through the pre-tertiary teacher development program and the transforming teacher education and learning program. Government's commitment to improved quality education will come to naught if the quality of teachers and teaching standards are compromised.
Dr. Matthew Opoku also charged the newly inaugurated council to ensure proper regulation and supervision of schools in the private sector, as well as the 40-member council. And the 40-member council is chaired by Mr. Michael Nsoa. Now, with Ghana's rich culture and natural ecology, tourism is seen as a potential high-income earner for the country. The prospects are, however, yet to be fully explored for various reasons. Figures released by shopping and tourism site Jumia suggests the sector contributed about 10.5 billion cedis, or 7.8% to Ghana's GDP. To streamline activities in the sector, the Ministry of Creative Arts and Tourism is collaborating with some private organizations to train industry players. Ahead of the 3-part training session, Love FM's Erastus Asaredonko takes a look at the tourism industry in the Ashanti region.
Beautiful traditional artifacts like these, the traditional clothing, the cultural ornaments designed right here in Kumasi, Ashanti region in Ghana, offers a steady job for the teeming youth and players in the tourism and hospitality sector. This is the street of Adum Post Office, and it is one place that people gather traditional clothing, traditional artifacts, and sell them to people who come in here for tourism purposes and even just to get some of these for their homes. Now, there are many hotels, many hospitality outlets. There are tourism sites. In Ashanti region, we have the Butterfly Sanctuary, we have Lake Bosomtwe, we have the Konfanochi Salt Site, which is just some few meters here at the Konfanochi Teaching Hospital. But experts say that because of few things, rapport between clients, and even how we treat foreigners who come in for tourist sites, and how to even market these places, it is dwindling the fortunes that we could have gained through the hospitality and tourism industry. Nana Afua Sapon is consultant to the Ministry of Tourism.
The roads to the tourism sites and whatnot, it's something not to write home about. You get me? So it makes it very difficult for people to even feel like it's interesting for us to go to such a place. Then when you get there, well, Ghanaians are said to be very homely, but the way this customer service thing comes in, the way they take you through things, I believe that a bit of training should be given to them there.
Nana Sewa Osborne is the MD Naswa Services Limited, organizers of the upcoming seminar.
To help the local tourism industry to know the accepted international standards when it comes to tourism. So this one is quite different. As well, some of the benefits, then participants will be listed on the website of the American Embassy as well as the Ministry of Tourism. So then you become the first point of reference if anybody is coming in from the US or across the world coming in.
And I'm Arba Kumsin from the rest of the team and myself. Thank you for watching. Join us same time next week. Good night.
This is Joy News Prime.